And we'll get us started off here with what do you mean I'm funny? What do you mean how am I funny? Am I a clown? I amuse you? You know?
That is at once a very good and very bad Pesci.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So this is one of those movies that Goodfellas got New Year's resolution. Always make sure we actually say the name of the movie.
Yes.
We say it, better say it twice and zeroth times.
Yes.
So Goodfellas, the classic Martin Scorsese picture from the early 90s. It's one of those movies that looms large in pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
Simpsons episodes, a whole series of cartoons about pigeons on Animaniacs back in the day.
Yeah. Yes, referenced many in many movie and TV show. Yeah.
Yep. And occasionally we'll go back and look at a classic and go, what were they thinking, or why did this catch on? Absolutely no question about how this one looms so large in the public consciousness, because it is a weird movie because it is about objectively awful people who you almost find yourself liking because they're just kind of 60% comedic.
Yeah.
Is the tone I'd give it.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. It's to compare it to another Martin Scorsese movie, very much like The Wolf of Wall Street. Kind of in the same vein, where it's like, you've got a main character who is objectively a really bad guy, but you somehow find yourself rooting for him.
Yeah, just the difference is that where that one was more obsessed with sex and money, this was there was a little bit of sex, but it was way more about just brutal mob violence.
Yes, yeah, and money too. Money in there. Yeah,
it always comes down to the money.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, and of course, great performances by everybody in there, from the late Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci. Yeah, just all around really, really great movie.
Yep. Now it's definitely one. It's not one for the squeamish. But if you're squeamish and looking at a classic mob movie, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Maybe not everything is for you.
Yeah.
Next up, and again, these are in no particular order.
Yeah.
Transformers 1.
Yes. A movie that deserved to do a lot better in the theaters.
Certainly, it was unfortunately hobbled by a bad marketing campaign, an animation style that brought the budget down, but does unfortunately look a bit kiddish.
Yeah. And I would say, and the plot is not really kiddish if you think about it. I mean, it's it deals with some pretty heavy themes,
right? Like being lied to by your government, the breakdown of friendships and brotherhood, some rather violent scenes, which are only this thing only squeaks away with a PG rating because it's robots. So
yeah. Yeah, and I would say certainly the best Transformers movie since the first Michael Bay one.
Yeah. You know what? I was about to maybe throw Bumblebee into the conversation, but hey, D Rhino.
Hey, D Rhino. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm going to put this ahead of Bumblebee in my personal ranking, just because Bumblebee had a few odd moments, and the fact that it was kind of nice just to have a Transformers movie without all the little humans messing things up.
Yeah. The only negative I have with this movie was the very cringy Marvel-esque humor.
Yeah, what I could tell you is that I was in the theater. I actually went to go see this in the movies or at the theater one day when I was just kind of bored.
Yeah.
The kids in the audience laughed at those jokes, so it worked for the target audience. But
But yeah, anyone over the age of 12 would probably just be, oh, come on.
Right. Or maybe like have a couple fewer ones.
Yeah.
Especially in the back half, though, this movie goes serious and goes hard.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah. What else was I gonna say about it? But yeah, I think it's a really good, also a really good origin story for how the Transformers were, how the two factions separated with, the Autobots and the Decepticons. With the Autobots basically being they were like the workers, that were toiling underground mining for energon, and then the Decepticons were the old military, the old high guard. And then you had Megatron, formerly D16, he sort of reminded me of like certain I don't know if I can say their names on here without getting in trouble with YouTube, but
are these related to World War II?
No, not World War II. Latin American revolutionaries.
Oh, from the island of Cuba, or
yes, from the island of Cuba.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's kind of who Megatron reminded me of. I don't know if that was intentional or.
Yeah. Either way, it shows you. It's interesting to see the path of somebody with good intentions getting broken by having their worldview shattered.
Yeah.
It's like a nice one bad day type scenario.
It is. Yeah. And Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime was an interesting choice.
He worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Also, what's his name from Key and Peele as no, that wasn't from Key and Peele. Who was it as Megatron again?
The guy from Bullet Train.
That's right. That's right. The guy from Key and Peele was
Bumblebee.
Bumblebee. That's right. Yeah. Megatron's voice acting performance was amazing in that one. So kudos to him.
Yeah.
I guess he didn't have to talk about Thomas the Tank Engine because in this one he was the train.
Yes. But yeah, definitely give this one a watch. We should probably mention Goodfellas is on Max. This one is on Transformers 1 is on Paramount Plus.
Yep. Coming in, and again, this is in no particular order. We have The Sting, which is another one of those classic movies where even if you've never heard of it, you watch it and probably at least some sort of parody suddenly makes sense.
Yeah. There was a King of the Hill episode that was kind of a parody of this.
Yep, with Peggy taking on the role of our what do you call it? Our shysters.
Grifters, shysters. Yeah.
Yep.
Con men.
Con men. Yes.
Yeah. The movie was follows Robert Redford, who he gets with he's like kind of like a low level con artist, and his partner gets killed by Robert Shaw's character, and so Redford teams up with Newman to they set up this elaborate con involving horse racing, betting on horse races, and it's kind of one of those movies that it's got a lot of twists and everything, and you're not entirely sure what's going to happen next. It's very much a what do I want to say? Very much a thrilling movie. Yeah.
Yep.
Trying to think. And another movie with great performances from Paul Newman and Robert Redford. I believe this was after Butch and Sundance. I think Butch and Sundance was like, so this one was like what, 73, I think.
73 sounds right. Maybe 74.
Yeah. I think Butch and Sundance was like 70 or 71. So yeah. I think our one complaint about this movie was that there weren't enough scenes with Redford and Newman.
Right, at least not with them together.
Yeah.
Redford was in really good shape at the time because I swear that half the movie was him running away from things for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
at a time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he was Tom Cruise before Tom Cruise.
Yep.
Well, yeah. This we watched it on Netflix, but I don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah, I think we rushed in before it left, so you have to do your own research for this one.
Yeah,
or it's worth a rent.
Yeah.
I can say I mentioned this at work, and one of my older coworkers was immediately enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes.
Statistically, if you were interested in this movie, you've probably already seen it. But just in case you haven't.
Yes. Yes. Watch it. Yeah. I would say I like this one better than Deadpool 2. Maybe even more than Deadpool 1, actually, now that I think about it.
Ooh, that's Deadpool 1 has more heart. This one is like made for the frustrated comic book fan.
Yeah.
Or comic movie fan, because it parodies the whole state of the MCU at the moment. And yet it's also kind of a touching send-off to that Fox era of superhero movies.
Yeah, because there were some, great cameos in there from Chris Evans playing Johnny Storm, Wesley Snipes Blade, Jennifer Gardner Elektra, which I forgot to mention that in the review. I thought it was really funny when they mentioned that the Ben Affleck Daredevil died, and Deadpool looks at Elektra and is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She's like, "Ah, it's okay." Because for those of you who probably don't know, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Gardner were married in real life for a few years, and then they got divorced. So,
yeah, he just keeps bouncing between the Jennifers, it seems.
Yeah. But and of course there was a Channing Tatum's Gambit, which for those of you who don't know, Fox has been toiling for like over a decade to try to get a Gambit movie made with him.
It just did not work out.
No, but yeah, this was a fun movie, and Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman play off of each other really well, and I this version of Wolverine was really interesting because he was. I guess he was, if I remember correctly, he was like indirectly or directly responsible for the death of all of the X-Men in his universe. So he has this bit of a redemption arc that he has to go through, and
Now, one thing I will say is that it's a story that works on a comedic level and a feels level. As soon as you start thinking about it for any length of time, you kind of realize that it's kind of nonsense, but that's okay. So sometimes it's okay to eat cotton candy.
Yes, yeah. And should be no secret that this was one of, if not the highest grossing movie last year.
That honor goes to Inside Out 2.
Oh, Inside Out 2. Okay.
But that had the unfair advantage of kids could get into that movie without parent involvement.
Right. Yeah. This movie, no, this movie is a hard R. Yeah.
Yep. Now, to follow up on the list, so there were a couple of these that we originally came up with like a top 3 independently. 2 of them were on both of our lists before we talked it out. One was Goodfellas, and the other one was our last movie you need to check out if you haven't yet, Unforgiven.
Yes. Which I believe we reviewed this the same night as Goodfellas.
That was a good week, man.
That was, yeah.
That isn't just recency bias. I looked over our year in review, and there really wasn't anything that was better than these 2.
No, it really wasn't. This was a movie that I had been meaning to watch for a while, and then the time was right to sit down and watch it, and I'm glad we did. I will say neither one of us are really huge Western fans.
I'll watch a Western movie, but it's not like I go out of my way to consume it intentionally.
Yeah, same here. But this movie had always been on my radar because it was considered one of Clint Eastwood's best movies. He not only was he the star of the movie, he was also the director. He is essentially it kind of reminded me of a movie we did last year, The Shootist, which was John Wayne's last movie. Kind of both of those characters in both of those movies have similarities to them, where they're these old gunslingers who were looking for one more chance at glory, or one more chance at whatever, making a difference. And this movie I think really not just does that, but also probably one of the few westerns that actually shows just how rough living in the old West back then really was, and how it wasn't necessarily just one of the themes of the movie was that stories about people tend to get exaggerated over time, but exaggerated by a bunch of people. And it's easy to see that happening given the era and the technology of the era. Because you have to keep in mind, there was no internet, there were no computers, there was no television or anything like that.
You couldn't get an actual photograph or anything.
Right. Yeah. And whenever eyewitnesses would see something, like a gunfight or whatever, they'd be like, oh, they'd exaggerate it. And that was kind of a theme of this, is just everybody's deeds being blown out of proportion.
Right. Like the whole inciting incident, by the time that Clint Eastwood's character was hearing about it, it went from a woman was cut on the face a few times and was scarred to her being horribly dismembered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting because at the end of the day, was anything really accomplished? Well, that's up for the readers, or that's for the viewer to decide.
Yeah. Yeah.
This one is also streaming on Max, being another Warner Brothers film.
Yes. It won a bunch of Oscars for a reason. So, definitely want to highly recommend checking it out. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So now that we've kind of cleared away the old, just wanted to mention that how grateful we are that we've seen an increase in our performance this year.
Yes.
Or I should say last year. We managed to crack 100 subs and then kept going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now part of it is we stepped up our thumbnail game.
Yeah.
Under advice from a Dragon Ball YouTuber I know by the name of Laughingstock Media. If you have any interest in Dragon Ball in general, I would check his channel out. He does very nice analytical takes on the series.
Yeah.
But he gave me some suggestions for making the thumbnails better, and so started making thumbnails for the videos, and it seemed to help.
Yes. Yeah. And also I think having a clear focus for what our channel is and what we, what our objective is, I think also helped as well.
Right. Like we're not, we decided to stop talking so much about whatever the current outrage was, because it's not like we have any insiders. We had opinions, but it's not like they were radically different than 100 other channels.
Yeah. And in all honesty, we're having more fun doing this than we were talking about stuff that was making us mad.
Indeed. Now, some movies can make us mad.
Yeah.
But that's more interesting because we learn more about what we value in storytelling.
Indeed. Yes.